Do you know what it feels like to be erased in plain sight? To stand in a room full of people who know you, who know your story, who know your marriage, and to realize in the space of one single sentence that you've been written out of your own life. That's the question I keep asking myself when I think back to that night, the graduation. Her speech, the moment she looked out over the crowd, smiled that sweet smile everyone thought was sincerity, and said she was thankful to him for his support. Him, not me. Her husband. We had driven there together, both of us buzzing with nerves and excitement. She was finishing her master's degree, and this was supposed to be one of the proudest nights of our lives. We'd weathered years of late nights, stress, arguments over bills, her tears at deadlines, and my constant reassurance that she was strong enough to get through it. I had proofread her essays, sat with her through study meltdowns, cooked meals when she forgot to eat, paid for extra courses when money was tight. I had done all of it, gladly, because I believed in her. And as we walked up those steps into the auditorium, she held my arm, leaned close and whispered, "I couldn't have done this without you." I believed her. The ceremony began. Proud families filled the seats. Balloons bobbed above heads. Flowers clutched tight. One by one, students walked across the stage, their names called, their futures unfolding. When her name echoed through the speakers, my chest swelled with pride. She crossed the stage with a confidence I hadn't seen in years, accepted her degree, shook hands, smiled for photos. I clapped until my palms stung, shouting her name, my voice hoarse. Afterward, graduates were invited to say a few words of thanks. Just a minute or two. She stepped up to the podium, glowing under the lights, her voice carrying strong and clear. She thanked her professors, her classmates, her parents, and then she paused. And most of all, she said, smiling wide, "I want to thank him for his unwavering support, for believing in me when no one else did, for being by my side every step of the way." My heart leapt. That had to be me. Who else could it be? But then her eyes moved, just slightly, past me, to the corner of the auditorium, and she said his name, the man she'd introduced to me months ago as just a mentor, the colleague who was just helping her with project, the man she swore was nothing more than a friend. My smile froze. The applause roared around me, oblivious to the crack in my chest. She was still speaking, her eyes shining, her voice soft with gratitude. She was thanking him, pouring words of devotion into the microphone, while I sat in the crowd like a stranger, erased from my own story. People glanced at me, some awkwardly, some with pity. My stomach twisted. My hands went numb. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. After the ceremony, she ran up to me, eyes sparkling, her degree clutched in her hand. "Did you hear me?" she asked breathlessly. "Wasn't it wonderful?" I stared at her. "You thanked him," I said, my voice. She blinked, confusion flickering across her face, before settling into irritation. "He's been a huge help. It would have been wrong not to mention him." "Wrong?" I whispered. "Do you know how many nights I stayed up with you? How many times I held you when you wanted to quit, and you couldn't find one word for me?" She rolled her eyes, brushing me off like I was being dramatic. "Don't make this about you. It was my graduation, my moment." But it wasn't just her moment. It was ours, and in front of everyone, she handed it to him. That night, I barely spoke on the drive home. She filled the silence with chatter, gushing about how much the ceremony meant to her, about how proud she was, about how wonderful he'd been. She didn't notice my silence, or maybe she did, and chose not to care. When we got home, she fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the adrenaline. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the words over and over. Most of all, I want to thank him. It wasn't just the speech, it was the culmination of months of unease. The late nights she said she was studying, but her phone buzzed with his name. The lunches she swore were with classmates, but her receipt said otherwise. The way she lit up when she mentioned him, brighter than she had with me in years, and now she had thanked him in front of everyone. Like I didn't exist. I knew then that it wasn't just gratitude. It was something more, something deeper, something she had tried to hide, but couldn't keep from slipping out when the world was watching. I needed proof, something undeniable, so I began watching. Quietly, carefully, I noted her excuses, her patterns, the way she guarded her phone. I saw the photos she liked on his posts, the ones she thought I wouldn't notice. I saw the way she mentioned him in conversations, always casually, always dismissively, but too often to be nothing. And then, one night, while she showered, her phone lit up. A message preview appeared. "I'm proud of you tonight. You looked beautiful up there." His name. My chest hollowed. I took a photo of the screen. Proof. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, humming. She didn't see the way my hands shook as I poured myself a drink. I didn't confront her. Not yet, because I knew how it would go. She'd deny it, twist it, make me feel paranoid. But this wasn't paranoia, this was fact. And facts need a stage. Her parents' 40th wedding anniversary was in a month. A massive celebration, planned for nearly a year. Everyone important would be there. Family, friends, colleagues. She had been buzzing about it, planning her dress, her speech. The perfect night. I smiled when she told me, kissed her forehead, and said, of course, I wouldn't miss it. But inside, I knew that was going to be the night. The night I laid out the truth. The night I stopped being invisible. The night her gratitude turned into the public betrayal she couldn't wriggle out of. She thought she could erase me, but she had no idea I was writing the ending. And she had no idea what was coming. The night of her parents' 40th anniversary arrived like a scene from a fairy tale. The hall they rented was strung with twinkling lights, long tables laid out with crisp white cloths, crystal glasses sparkling under chandeliers. There was laughter, music, the clink of cutlery, the kind of warmth you only find in a family that's proud of its roots. Everyone was there. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, family friends from childhood, her colleagues, even old neighbors. It was a gathering meant to celebrate loyalty, longevity, commitment, 40 years of marriage, built on the foundation of trust. The irony was almost too heavy to breathe. She looked stunning, I'll admit that much. A golden dress that shimmered with each step, her hair falling in waves, her smile wide and rehearsed. She greeted people warmly, kissed cheeks, accepted compliments on her appearance. And when someone asked how she was doing, she slipped her hand into mine and answered, "Wonderful, couldn't be happier." The performance was flawless, but inside my jacket, in an envelope thicker than any wallet, was the truth. Screenshots of messages, her graduation speech printed in black and white, the words highlighted where she thanked him, not me. Proof that the woman who promised to love me had poured her devotion into someone else. I let the night unfold. Toasts were made, speeches were given. Her father stood tall, voice strong even in his later years, thanking his wife for 4 decades of loyalty and laughter. People clapped, some cried. Her mother smiled, glowing under the praise, the kind of love you could feel radiating through the room. Then it was her turn. She stood gracefully, raising her glass, her voice carrying clearly. "To my parents," she said warmly, "for teaching me what love looks like, for showing me how to build something lasting, something strong. You've always been my example, and I'm grateful every day for the lessons you've given me." Applause filled the room. She smiled, basking in, and then she looked at me, sliding her hand onto mine under the table, squeezing gently. That was her way of saying, "See, we're perfect. Don't you dare ruin this." But it was already ruined. I stood, slowly, deliberately. The scrape of my chair against the floor silenced the table. Conversations faded. Eyes turned. Dozens of people stared as I adjusted my jacket and cleared my throat. She froze, her smile stiffening. Her hand shot out, gripping mine tightly. "Don't," she whispered, her voice sharp with panic. I pulled free. "I'd like to say something," I began, my voice calm but steady. Her father smiled proudly. "Of course, son. Go ahead." I looked around the room at faces glowing with pride, glasses lifted in celebration. Tonight we're here to honor loyalty, 40 years of it, commitment, devotion, the kind of love that doesn't bend when storms hit. And it's beautiful. But it would be dishonest to sit here and talk about loyalty while ignoring what happens when it's broken. A ripple of unease swept through the crowd. She stiffened, her face pale. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. Thick, heavy. I set it on the table with a sound that made her flinch. "This," I said, sliding the first paper free, "is her graduation speech. The night she stood in front of hundreds of people and thanked him, not me. Here, the man she swore was just a mentor, just a friend. The man she smiled at with gratitude, while erasing the husband who stayed up with her night after night, who believed in her, who sacrificed for her. Gasps echoed through the room. Her mother's eyes wide. Her father's smile collapsed into a hard line. "No," she said suddenly, standing, her voice trembling. "Please, don't do this here." But I pressed on. "And this," I continued, pulling out the screenshots, laying them flat on the table, "is what followed. Messages, late-night conversations, him telling her she looked beautiful that night, her thanking him, not me, her building a life with him, in the shadows while standing beside me in the light." The whispers grew louder. People leaned in, eyes darting between the papers and her face. Her sister gasped, audibly. Her cousins shook their heads. Her father's jaw tightened. She broke then, tears spilling down her cheeks, her hands shaking as she reached for the papers. "It's not what it looks like," she cried. "Please, it wasn't like that. It didn't mean anything." Her father slammed his fist on the table, dishes rattling. "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice booming, fury laced in every word. She sobbed, collapsing into her chair. "I made a mistake," she choked. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I needed support, and he was there, and I was weak. Please, it didn't mean anything." Her mother was crying openly now, shaking her head in disbelief. Her sister glared at her with fire in her eye. The cousins whispered furiously, some glaring at her, others at me, unsure where to look. I gathered the papers back into the envelope, tucking them away with deliberate calm. I looked at her, really looked at her, and my voice came out steady. "Fine. You stood at your graduation and erased me with one sentence. You looked into a microphone and handed everything we'd built to someone else. And now, in front of everyone, the truth is clear. You weren't grateful for me. You were grateful for him." She reached for me then, mascara streaking her cheeks, desperation dripping from every word. "Please," she begged. "Please don't leave me like this. I'll end it. I'll prove to you I love you. Just don't walk away." I shook my head slowly. "You already did. The night you thanked him. You left me min. Tonight, I'm just catching up." I set down my glass, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the door. Behind me, the noise erupted into chaos. Her sobbing, her father's shouting, her mother's cries, guests whispering in disbelief, chairs scraping as people stood. The celebration of 40 years of loyalty had turned into a courtroom of betrayal. She stumbled after me, heels clicking desperately on the floor, grabbing my arm at the exit. "Please," she screamed, falling against me. "Please don't leave me. I'll change. I'll get help. I'll do anything." I pulled free, my voice quiet but razor sharp. "You should have thought of that before you erased me." And then I walked out into the night. The air was cool, sharp, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The fallout was swift and merciless. Her father refused to speak to her, humiliated and furious. Her mother avoided her calls, ashamed. Her sister cut her off completely, accusing her of ruining the family's reputation. Friends she thought would defend her stayed silent, and him, the man she thought was her savior, vanished the moment the truth went public, leaving her alone. She called me for weeks, her messages swinging between rage and desperation. "You ruined me," one day. "Please, I need you, don't leave me." The next, I never answered. I filed for separation. My lawyer flipped through the folder, nodding grimly. "This is more than enough," he said, and me. I walked away, scarred, yes, changed, forever, yes, but free. Even now, I sometimes hear her voice in my head. I'm thankful to him for support. But then I remember the look on her face when the truth came out, when her family turned their backs, and I realized something. That wasn't gratitude. That was betrayal dressed as appreciation, and it cost her everything.